you're ahead, hook up with Walter the Man and Steve for hypnotherapy. Segment that's going to be held over the 6 parts over 3 months, and it's all about decoding addiction. And when I refer to decoding addiction, we're not referring to actually taking heroin or snorting cocaine or doing alcohol or sex or whatever that subsidiary is. It is about dealing with the root causes and the senses of numbness, what leads to the subsidiary. Walter, if you don't mind, with your special gift, if you could honor us with a lovely prayer and just a sense of zenning. Sure. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, both Stephen and Michael, for having me on this podcast, this show. It is a pleasure. It is an honor to participate in your vision to bring about an understanding of what is a primal wounding, or an expression of a primal wounding, and to find ways perhaps to help people to unravel that wound, bring it the love, and bring it the healing. So with that, I invite you to close your eyes, perhaps place your hands over your heart, become aware of your breath as you draw your breath to your heart in conscious mindfulness. Hold it there for a moment, and with your out breath, gently direct your attention to your feet. Take another breath all the way to your heart, this time allowing yourself to feel the gratitude to be in this moment, to be in this circle with brothers and sisters around the world. Feel that connection for a moment, and then release by gently feeling and bringing your attention to your feet. Again, bring another breath to your heart, this time gifting yourself with a sense of love for self. For after all, our journey back to self is the journey back to the recognition that we deserve love and that we can receive love. Hold that moment, hold that feeling, hold that awareness for a moment. And as you release that breath, allowing yourself to feel your feet, know that you are energetically setting your intention into the very cellular fabric of your being. So allow yourself to maintain that presence with your heart. I call upon our guides, our angels, our spiritual teams, for each and every one of us within this circle, both seen on camera and those who will join us later on. Hold us in a loving container of love, allowing the necessary inspirations, guidance, insights to flow through uninhibited, unbiased by personal opinions, but one that is guided through the faculty of our love and our calling to be of service to one another. Anything else that we may need to bring through as an add-on that may not have been considered, I call on the wisdom, vision, and knowing of our I Am presence to bring this information through in a way that is supportive, nurturing, and respectful for all involved, so that at the end of all of this, there is healing, there is growth, there is understanding, and above all, there is a sense of love for self once more. This or better, and so it is.
So mote it be. Thank you, Walter.
You're welcome.
Well, decoding addiction. Thank you for the lovely Oz factoring and just bringing things down to a little bit, because so many people in life get caught up in that whole compulsive aspect. But when it gets to trauma bonds in relationships, whether it's internally or externally, internally we have these type of conflicts that happen. And we've got to understand that our pain body is not the same as our inner child. And our inner child is not the same as our cognitions, as our consciousness. But collectively together, they make up one. And when that happens in a relationship where the pain body is like, hey, follow me, my way is so cool. And it really does happen. And your conscious mind acts on it. The inner child gets really upset and guilt trips the conscious mind and is in this internal fight. Now, in relationships, what can happen in trauma bonding, there will be a sense of, let's create an argument, here's a reward. Let's create a fight, here's a reward. And the rewards are great because you get two different types of rewards. You get long-term rewards and you get short-term rewards. And in life, when we have these aspects of these rewards that happen all the time, and then they stop, what happens in relationships and the trauma bonds within those is that we crave the arguing, we crave the fighting, and that is where the issue comes in, because over a long-term period, over 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, there's going to be a need to compromise. And if people can't compromise at that moment in time, what happens is catastrophe. Things fall apart. People want to go shoot up. People want to go to the pub. They want to go down to the brass. And at the same time, just by self-regulating and looking at various four aspects, which we are going to unpack now, to lower these aspects that can cause heightened tensions within our mind, our body, and our soul. Maybe people can not numb their own realities by just becoming aware of what is. So with that note, there is an aspect known as the 3 seasons, which are, Steve, which one should we hit first? Criticism, contentment, defensiveness, or stonewalling? You know, those shield. Or would you like to discuss the trauma bonding a little bit more and getting a little bit of a more...
Well, one thing came to me, and that was that there's something that you said about emotional regulation, self-regulation, and that's something that most people aren't aware of, right? We don't even bring that into that realm of consciousness of that we can exert upon our life experience this intention or influence of consciousness, and that is a huge realization that we can choose the way that we feel about who we are. We can define who we are, and we can understand that experience. And so what you're sharing about self-regulation, I mean, we could have that whole conversation just on that ability. So let's go into the concept that comes to you that highlights, you know, this journey of understanding.
Well, with self-numbing and the need to prove one's self-worth, it's quite a challenging one, because for argument's sake, say you're in a relationship and your partner is she criticizes you all the time, and then your self-esteem drops. Then you go down to the pub, or you go to a club, and now you need to be someone else to, well, prove your own self-worth. So not being authentic in itself. And that is the basis of trauma bonding, understanding that internal dialogue between your conscious mind, between your mind, body, and your soul, and having them communicate and realizing, hold on one second, pain body, you're being a bit naughty now. Go sit in the naughty corner for a little bit, because our inner child and the consciousness need to have a dialogue and discuss how we're going to allow you to operate in this vessel, in this body, in this space and time, so we can have a common goal.
So you said something that really resonated with me, and I think this would be a great time to bring Walter in to talk about it. But it was this realization of proving your self-worth. When you said that, proving your self-worth, and to me that's fascinating, because when we have a severe life experience, this awakening life experience where we shift our pattern of thinking, right? We go through something that's either so painful or something that we decide that we're not going to think this way, we're not going to feel this way, we're not going to be this way anymore. And we open up to the possibility that we can do this self-regulation and this control. When we do that and open up to this possibility and recognize, these personas within us, these, the inner child, the spiritual side of us, all of that, we realize that there is no such thing as proving your self-worth, that we all have inherent worth. And it's an illusion to think that we are anything other than that. And so I'd like to get Walter's input on that, because that's a key thing. You would never do anything to harm yourself. But a lot of times we live in pain. We're hurting ourselves intentionally because we're living in this pain body. Like we smoke because we have this subconscious death wish. We try to numb ourselves because we don't like the feeling, but it's that feeling itself that creates the awareness, right? But when it gets to the point where it's more than we want to live with, we will let it go. And so by numbing it, you're delaying your progression into the next realm of awareness. And it's difficult, but it's one of those things that once you've been through it, you understand the whole process of awakening.
I think with what you both have actually said, I think one of the key themes that I find as being very important in the work is distinguishing the layers, because things can be so interconnected. So, someone's done something, therefore I react this way, and I need this to actually cope with this. This causes this issue with someone else, and it becomes this mess. I think the first step in the process of healing is the delineation of the layers of being. So what is my pain body all about? So, if we're going to talk about the pain body, as opposed to thinking of some esoteric concept, the easiest way to think of it is, where am I hurting? To allow ourselves to be truly in the moment with the experience of engaging with someone, I get this reaction. Engaging with this person, I get this reaction. Allowing ourselves to really commune with that layer of experience, as opposed to then reacting to saying, when I feel this way, I'll take that cigarette and I'll go puff, as a way of showing I have power in this situation. Not implying that everything is about power, but I do believe it is about pulling back some level of control in the matter. So if we are able to first navigate and allow ourselves to steer to the pain, whatever that situation might be. So, partner is really triggering you, or the boss at work is triggering you, or a mission that you are hoping to complete, a book that you're trying to complete, but whatever you're doing, it seems like you are hitting a wall. Feel into the pain. I think the first thing is, what is this pain all about? Once we actually obtain the language, obtain and create dialogue with the pain, that's the first step in allowing ourselves to then say, okay, the boss is actually, let's just say this is the boss situation. The boss is actually screaming at me. I'm not actually angry because it's unfair. I'm actually angry because I feel humiliated. So the humiliation there is really the core of the issue here. It's nothing to do about being disempowered, but it's that personal perspective that says, somehow, somewhere within my delivery of this job and the way in which this boss reacts to me is my way of affirming my caliber in what I do. So the same thing in terms of a relationship, the partner screams at you, and it's blah, blah, blah. And yes, it's a storming row, but perhaps if you navigate it again to the pain, what is the pain all about? It might be, I can't believe you don't trust me. So in that sense, your drive, your inner drive has been within the dynamic of the relationship, has been to prove your trustworthiness. And the fact that you feel that the other person does not trust you is effectively a reflection that something within you is saying, I'm untrustworthy. So there is the work to actually return to the space of the pain, that the original wounding that says, perhaps it's an inner child story, it's an event when you were a little child where mommy or daddy said, I can't believe I left the cake with you and you ate half of it before the party started. And so there's this belief that I have not been able to manage or to hold on to the responsibility when it mattered. And so every situation then that triggers this lack of accountability takes you back to that event, and the event then triggers not as an adult responding to the situation, but as the child that says, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to eat it, but it was too tempting. So perhaps it's where the journey can begin, by localizing the pain, finding the narrative within the pain, and allowing that narrative to be viewed not from a place of shame or judgment, but from a place of understanding, compassion, and receptivity. Because I think that's, in all the healing modalities, the client could never come in where you then come in as the therapist and what's your problem now? Oh, you haven't given it up yet, have you? That's not going to work. The situation with any modality is, yes, there is the strength of the container, but there's also the expansiveness of that compassion that says, let's hear what's the story here. What is at the core that is causing this root problem to occur? What do you think, Steve?
Well, I love what you're sharing. And as you were sharing that, there were a couple of things that came to mind. It really resonates with me that we get put into these childlike states of response, and that in their automatic behaviors, we kind of lose our intentional engagement, and we just act out in this way that we thought. And if we're bringing it back to addiction and things like that, there's also these base beliefs that exist, right? It's like, how many places do you look around? It's like, okay, we're going to go out on Friday and have drinks, or we're going to do this. If you have a gathering, you bring alcohol in, or you bring something else in. And it's just like that belief that if you have a party, we have a cake, right? So it's bringing this whole thing back into this establishment of what you expect to be true. And how many times do we have entire societies that are based on consumption of alcohol or smoking or drug use or sex or any other addictive behavior? These things come about because we've accepted that this is something that we do. This is something that we turn to. It's a behavior that has been accepted, and it gives us an excuse to act a certain way, or to release our responsibility, and to avoid the pain. So everything that you shared really, it resonated with me, and I love that concept. And the last part about coming into the therapist, well, nothing matters if we have something that we're excited about, right? If we have something in life that we feel empowered, encouraged, it doesn't matter what that idea is. But the moment we grasp on something that triggers that response of, this is what we want to do, we'll forget everything else. We won't worry about the pain. We will focus exclusively on this thing that excites us, that lifts us up and energizes. And that's a wonderful thing. If a therapist could help somebody find what it is that will empower them and give them a focus that will bring more to their life, that is a beautiful experience. And I think that exchange is something that, that dialogue, it's helping people find what it is that makes their life a better experience. I liked that there's a practicing psychologist that said that medication works great for people that have a chemical imbalance, but many times people are in an emotional state that's, if you're in a depressing environment, antidepressants won't help you.
Absolutely.
because you can't, you're in a situation where you're constantly being faced with all of those different things. So, the biggest thing is first changing that environment, and then, you can deal with some of the other factors. But that's what I like what you shared, is that it's that engagement with each other.
Yeah, what came to my mind was that naturally, and I just love how this is all just unfolding organically, because we touched on aspects of contentment. We've touched on the aspects of the disrespect, on how to feel positive, the defense aspects of listening to concerns. But when it comes to stonewalling, and people in essence do this, hot and cold aspect, and this word narcissist, everyone, it's just like a hip phrase, hashtag narcissist, is traveling around the world. But if we can replace that word narcissism for care, as in someone either cares too much about another person, or they care too much for themselves, it's still the same thing. Because if I care too much about myself, I'm not caring about someone else. But if I care too much about someone else and not about myself, it puts you in that category of being an empath. So there's ways to, by mindfulness, and through, or Walter, through your profession and through Stephen's profession as hypnotherapist, to bring people into regulation and to functional, so they can operate in society in a way where they don't have the need to numb reality, because they chilled and zened, Oz-factored. That's my take.
I think with regards to the word narcissist, I think it's been bandied around quite a lot. And I do question as to whether the labeling, when it falls on the shoulders of people, if it's totally correct or if it's totally justified. But from an energetic point of view, the characteristics of a narcissist, there is what almost seems like a kind of a bypassing of the heart function. It's not that they can't be caring, but there's that, when you actually feel into the energy, there is a sense where the agenda is primarily the self, and therefore there is very little concern or opinion or even empathy for what their impact might be on the other person.
So they're stonewalling in essence.
It could be stonewalling, but it'd be unfair to actually say that everyone who does stonewalling is actually a narcissist, because in each of the categories that you mentioned, the 4 horsemen, I actually think with all of life, there's got to be a kind of organic process to the individual. It's like, we live in a kind of a fake timetable, and the word fake, again, perhaps it's not right. It's like an imposed timetable. At the age of 6, you've got to be ready for preschool. At the age of 12, you've got to be ready for high school. At the age of this, you've got to be ready to socialize. But when we put everyone into a box, then everyone ceases to function as a unique individual with unique timings, with unique calibers, with unique gifts. So you could actually have a strategist who has a war, and let's just say someone who works in the army. I'm not saying this is in no way demeaning anyone who works in the army, but someone who says, I have very little impact, or I'm impacted very little by the decisions that I make, that all I'm thinking about is the strategy of my battalion. say someone with 80% narcissistic attributes might do very well in there, because suddenly they're thinking, okay, we're going to put this battalion there, this battalion there, this battalion there, and it's completely strategic. Now, take someone who's absolutely empathic, but placed in that position, it's like, I'm going to put it there, but oh my God, it's like, it's going to cause so much trouble with the families or the people in that village. Oh my goodness. Everyone has a space and a function. And the problem is, if everyone is forced into a box to comply and to meet a specific set of societal categories, the likelihood then is that the internal alignment of, I know my purpose, I know my heart, I know my being, is suddenly disconnected because we're all forced to fit into what others say is the standard norm. What happens when you're disconnected? You're feeling completely either depressed, misaligned. I can't connect with my purpose. I don't know what I'm doing here. I love my family, and yet I don't know how to feel them. All these narratives are actually talking about one simple truth, and that is, I am not aligned. And again, I want to actually take away any idea that the idea of misalignment is some kind of shameful situation. Every time we walk into a bar with friends and we're thinking like, you know, today I'm not really in the mood to drink, and you walk in and you force yourself some drinks, that's a low-level misalignment. Every time you wake up at 6 o'clock to go to work, to actually pay the bills, and you hate your work, that's misalignment. You know, so how can we bring ourselves back to alignment? And I think the underlying desire to self-sedate, you know, whatever we call addiction, it is some way to heal or numb a sense of pain that arises from a sense that says, I'm not aligned to me. I'm not aligned to me. And this is my only way of actually saying, you know what, this is my time. Whether it be a cigarette smoke, maybe it's a shopping binge, or I'm guzzling food, or I'm actually guzzling this. It's my time. Nobody calls the shots here. It's my time. And what's the key word here? My time. So perhaps it's that realignment back to a sense of your timeliness in the moment, that this is your time, this is your moment, this is your moment for being. And I guess the invitation with any healing journey is, are you ready to step into your timeliness? Are you ready to step into your groove? Are you ready to step into your alignment and actually think that every step that I make is one that inspires not just me, because I am doing this in complete vibe with my truth, but everything that I do, that I resonate and I permeate this sense of empowerment to my people. And therefore they might feel, hey, what are you doing that's different from me? Can I find my way too? That's the way I think. And, you know, it's broad, but I think the working back to that alignment through the various processes like hypnotherapy or energetic medicine or an astrology reading or some other modality that you feel aligned to. And I think this is important. The person who's seeking the help must feel some level of resonance to understand, and there must be a sense of purpose that I want to not grapple from a sense of control, but I want to be able to open up and receive myself once more. That's my take.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Steve, do you want to just give a short blurb on your feelings and thoughts and then go on to the video?
Sure. You know, it's an interesting concept, and what comes to me is that when we talk about you know, this idea of narcissism, it's not just yes or no, you are this or you're not this. There's an entire spectrum of experience, and then even for someone that might determine that they are, you know, this category, this container, there's an entire spectrum for that about the internal self-confidence and worth. And a lot of times when we're talking about that, most of the people that I've come across, it's based in pain. It's a protective measure of, I have to think about myself because no one else cares about me. I have to look out for myself. And it's this lack of trust in others. And when we talk about, the people in the army, a true narcissist would say, this is my battalion, right? And everything is an extension of themselves. And they view things externally to them just as toys, or, it's no different between a stapler or a person. There is no difference there. So the idea is that, if we're seeking this understanding, we always have to look at another person almost as a mirror. This is a reflection. And so the things that trigger us are something that has been triggered within us. We see them, but it's the reflection that causes the response. So when we're dealing with people, knowing that it's an entire spectrum, if you're highly sensitive and empathic, everyone's going to seem to be a narcissist to you because everybody's on one side. But if you're in the middle, half the people will seem like narcissists, the other half will not. And if you're all the way over on the narcissistic end, there'll be not a single narcissist in the world, including yourself, because there is no such thing as a narcissist. They're just two people that are too sensitive. So, it's a fascinating journey. And what we come to is, this is all about understanding what it is that defines our life. There is no dress rehearsal for life. This is the shot we get. Even if you believe in reincarnation, if you don't get it, you're going to come back and you're going to repeat the pattern, right? We're here to be released from the bonding of what it is that's holding us in this plane. And we can release that by awareness. The moment that we see what is the tether and what is the anchor, those 2 points, we can start working on releasing some of those things that have us bound in this existence. So when we talk about addiction, we talk about behaviors, all of those things are dealing with masking the tethers to pain, the tethers to wounding, the tethers to beliefs, or the tethers to identity. I mean, there's so many things that we can use different things to mask. And the moment that we quit doing that and start actually looking at, okay, what is this tethered to? Or what is actually this tether made of? Is it a belief? Is it a feeling? Is it a response? And just start unraveling that whole experience of life. That, I do believe, is where we can start, stepping into the self-regulation. We can choose what it is that we want to do. And in that, self-identity is a big part of it, because like with even smoking cessation, I always tell people, don't say that you're trying to quit smoking. Just say, I'm a non-smoker who happens to smoke. And in the moment that you accept that as your identity, then at some point you'll just stop smoking, because you'll have accepted in your heart, in your mind, in who you are, that, yeah, you're doing this behavior, but the behavior is not you. You are not a smoker. It's not part of who you are. It's just a habit you happen to choose. In the moment that your need for the habit is outweighed by your self-identity and some other thing that you want, you'll switch that habit. You'll change how you live and how you respond. And so when you're under stress, you won't turn to a cigarette. When you're under stress, you might turn to going for a walk, or you might turn to anything else. So that was what came to me. Thank you.
Stephen, Walter, thank you so much. It was so amazing that we actually went through the Four Horsemen organically. And that whole aspect of neurological shifts and choosing it was amazing. And I absolutely agree with you, Walter, about aligning, or the alignment between an Akashic narrative and an Akashic soul's path and a human experience. I truly believe in that personally. And Steve's going to play a lovely video now on habits and how to change habits. And should all of you that have tuned in and watched in struggle with certain aspects and how to re-regulate, how to become more functional, the cartoon plus the talk that we've just had, which is very general and generally light-hearted, may actually help you to live a better new life series. And please consider donating. There is a link below. So even though the events are free, buy Walter or buy Steve a cuppa of tea or a cup of coffee. So just click on the link, drop $1, $2, $3, whatever, drop $10 million. The money's irrelevant. The point being is that just let them enjoy a cup of tea in the morning. Come on, Steve. let's see that video, man. Come on, dude.
I was trying to get it ready to play here. So let me get it up and playing. All right, so share screen. All right, hopefully this will work. And tell me if you see this. Oops, so I don't know how to make it big. Can you see it?
I see it. I see it.
Perfect.
A habit is a fixed way of thinking that leads to automatic behavior. The benefit is we don't have to rethink again and again what to do. It just happens and can have good side effects. But a bad habit can also hurt us or hold us back from progressing. Although, like anything, we can learn and unlearn them. But first, let's try to understand where they come from. Habits are made by experiences creating fixed ways of thinking inside our brain. To explain this, let's compare what happens inside your brain to what happens on a farm. There is a farmer named Joe, his vegetable garden, the chicken shed, and a mailbox. Every morning, Farmer Joe first walks to the vegetables, then checks on his chickens, then collects his mail, and then walks back to the house. After a few days of this routine, his trace becomes more visible on his farm. After a few months, the trace becomes fixed pathways, not only on his farm, but also inside his brain. One night, Joe has a magical dream where he discovers his love with all living creatures. The next day, he sets all of his chickens free. The funny thing is though, instead of adjusting his behavior, he still walks blindly from the vegetable garden to the chicken shed. The trace on the ground and inside Joe's brain is now just too deep. To leave the path of habit, we have to go down a new road. This takes time and multiple repetitions of our new desired behavior and willpower to keep going. A habit is often a response to a certain trigger, which is followed by a routine and usually ends with a reward. This is also called a habit loop. Joe's trigger is the vegetables. As soon as he waters his last tomato, he starts his next routine to automatically walk to the chickens. His reward is to find eggs. And because rewards release dopamine, a neurotransmitter that makes our brain first happy and then hooked, we get stuck and can't let go anymore. Joe's sister lives in the city. She has a funny habit. Whenever she hears her phone, she automatically looks at the screen. Most of the time, it's just a random, irrelevant message. This happens even if something far more important was happening right at that moment. The sound from the phone triggers a routine in the hope for a sweet reward and some of that addictive dopamine. To change a habit, journalist Charles Duhigg recommends redesigning the habit loop. Say you like going to the movie theater, but whenever you do, you eat too much of that sweet popcorn. In this case, your trigger is the popcorn stand that you pass by whenever you go to the movies. Your routine is buying that popcorn, and your reward is snacking during the film. To change your habit, you could keep the trigger and keep the reward, but replace the routine. Instead of sweet, get salty popcorn. Later, maybe even fruit. If a problem gets very serious, remove the trigger. Stop buying movie tickets. If we can't leave our phone alone, we can turn off all the notifications. And if we have friends that get us into situations that can trigger a bad habit, we can make new friends that don't. Some habits are tricky. Procrastination, for example. There is no clear trigger, routine, or reward. It just happens. Habits like that can be changed in tiny steps that lead to small rewards. Next time you procrastinate, try to make some short breaks in which you focus. Your trigger can be the full hour on your clock. Once you hear it, focus on your work even if it is just for 5 minutes. After, reward yourself with a piece of chocolate. The very first day you do that, you will already create some new traces in your brain, and the next day some more. After a few weeks, it will be easy to walk down that road. Many small steps added together make a big difference over time. After all, we still have our entire life in front of us. And to become successful, good habits are probably our best bet. As the famous poet John Dryden wrote, we first make our habits, and then our habits make us.
You're muted, Michael.
Oh, there we go. Well, once again, guys, huge respect, huge gratitude, and thank you for Walter just re-embracing the association of alignment between our mind, our body, and our soul. And Stephen, you rock, dude. Your mannerisms are absolutely beyond comprehension, but I'm a little bit biased in that aspect in any event. Once again, everyone that has tuned in, the events are free, but it doesn't stop you from donating 50 cents, $1, and buying either Steve or Walter a cuppa so they can enjoy times with their partners and break those time loops. And you know, in the video we just watched, they showed someone being puppeteered. And so often in life, we get puppeteered by past experiences that affect our futures by really messing up our nows and our today's end vibes. And Walter and both Steve put that into perspective about alignment, but just from different perspectives. While we close off, is it okay if we just go around the room and just give one thing that we're grateful for?
Steve?
Anyone can start.
Oh, okay. I'm grateful for this opportunity, for meeting both Michael. I know we've chatted before, but also meeting Stephen. You've both given me some further insight that will add value to what I give to my people, to my tribe, and to my clients. And what I love, Stephen, what I love from your closing bit before was the whole idea of identity. You know, I think we carry so many labels within ourselves, and perhaps part of the first steps will be to revisit these labels and ask, are these labels actually affirming me, or do they beat me down? And perhaps if we begin to change and add new labels that totally go rah, rah, Michael, rah, rah, Walter, the inner dialogue begins to change. The inner dialogue changes, the energy changes, your environment changes, the environment changes, your future expands. So I give thanks for the wisdom that both of you have brought through in this beautiful meeting today. And I sincerely place my trust in the universe, in spirit, that the information that we have shared here will touch the hearts and minds and beings of all who see this and begin their journey of recalibrating back to alignment and joy. That's my statement.
I really love that.
Thank
And I enjoyed,
Thank you.
yeah, I enjoyed meeting you, Walter. This is the first time that we've crossed paths with one another, and the way that you phrase things and your the wisdom that you bring forward and that energetic state is very special. And I really appreciate, you know, the work that you do and how you show up in the world. And along with the role identity, we have to remember that role identity is conditional on the moment, right? So we have a different role identity based on whether you're at a holiday function or whether you're at the movies or whether you are, you know, celebrating Valentine's Day or any other event, right? So we have complex identities and expectations that go with that. What I'm truly grateful for is meeting the two of you and having this dialogue and sharing the wisdom to take what it is that we know and to seek that mutual understanding. I know that in my heart that as people progress on this path, that we can all find this life that we want to live, and that to me is a gift, right? To change what we believe and to change this life experience. When you are in a negative environment, right? If you have the self-doubt and if you're lacking trust in who you are and confidence, your chemistry in your body is strong and you can feel not great. And what's important is we talk about external addiction, but there's this internal chemistry that is huge and it is very powerful. But as we're closing here and talking about gratitude, if we can focus on gratitude, and it doesn't even need to be something great. It could be the fact that something is less bad than it was yesterday, but always looking for the best possible occurrence of what it is around you and focusing on the best of what you have and being grateful for that. Then slowly over time, you will actually shift your energetic state. You'll shift your body into feeling better. And it only takes about 3 months, and you can actually transform how you experience life in that internal chemistry that's within you. It's a beautiful journey. It's a beautiful experience, and it can be done over time. So that was my takeaway, my statement, that I'm grateful for all of you, and I'm grateful that we can actually help people understand that they have the ability to change the way they feel and to change the way they perceive life.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work through decoding addiction, but from a different perspective. And for this specific episode, I'm super grateful for the antidotes that have been given by Steve and by Walter. So if we had to take criticism, for argument's sake, to shift it down to say, I am worthy of this, with that whole bit with the boss always complaining, to reshift it to positive aspects. When someone stonewalls you, take time out, go for a walk. And when we have all this defensiveness, what's it, defensiveness? We put these walls up. It's nice just to talk and communicate. And I'm super grateful for us all just saying what we're thankful for. And I encourage all that watch this to do it at a dinner table with your family, just to say one thing that you're grateful for the day. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, guys.
And there was one thing, we could go on forever, but the one thing about awareness is, as you are feeling those feelings, the journey of awareness is one, just noticing what you're feeling, right? Don't judge it, just notice how it feels and what you're experiencing. And then the second part is understand what was the belief or what was the thought that triggered that response or that feeling. And once you start understanding that, you can ask a third question at the very end is, does that belief even belong to you, right? Did we adopt this from somebody else? Or is it something that we want to carry in our life, right? So that third question is important because we don't often question, is this my belief, right? And if we go through and sort out and clean out those beliefs that don't truly belong to us, we can remove all of those triggers that cause us to feel bad in the first place. So that's what I wanted to leave parting. Thank you. You're muted, my friends.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to do it again in two weeks' time. So there's 6 episodes in total with fabulous speakers from around the world, and yeah, let's connect as one tribe.
Absolutely. Go well.